So we'd like to welcome Mike Allred on the show. If you remember last week's episode, we talked to Mike's partner, Mark Russell, and now we're going to have Mike on. Yeah, we had an interview last week with Mark Russell.
Great.
It was a lot of fun, and it basically how our interviews work is we pick up a comic book that we're enjoying, and we know the work of the people on it, so we picked this up.
Yeah.
And we're both loving it. Right off of Superman Space Age, we really love this. So we're like, you know what? Let's see if we can get Mark on and Mike on. And we're always very shocked when you guys say yes to be on the show. And honestly, we'd like, why would anyone want to sit with us and talk comics? And we've been collecting for a long time. Both me and Brian are in our 50s, so we've been collecting for a long time. We know the ins and outs of collecting. It's this YouTube thing that's kind of new to us, so we just bring on people we like. We want to talk to. We want to know about your story.
Well, I'm happy you like me.
And we do. It's and we have for a long time. And actually, Brian's not here, but I have behind me a list of questions he wanted me to ask you. So throughout this video, there will be some Brian questions. So my first question is: when you were a kid, were you a comic book fan as a kid?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, my earliest memory was waking up in a hospital after my brother threw me off a table. I got a concussion.
Okay.
And woke up in the hospital, and the bed was blanketed with comic books. That's my earliest clear memory in my life.
How old were you?
Oh gosh, I relate this story so often that I'm thinking 5-ish.
Okay.
4. I'm not sure, but I have images of memories before that, but that is my clear first memory.
And what were you reading? What did you like growing up?
Well, actually, one of my older brother Lee, who talked mom and dad into buying a bunch of comic books, which of course he then took. But he remembered one. In fact, this would get the date down because it was an Action comic, and I repurchased it after he told me exactly what issue it was, and it was the only exact comic he could remember of that incident. But and because of him, I mean, he was a brilliant guy, had amazing taste. So he always had the best stuff. And when we would go on trips, we'd stock up on comics, so we're reading in the back, or if we're in the camper, we're up on the thing over the cab and reading comics. And I would get through my kiddie comics really fast and beg Lee to let me then read his, which were always just so much more mind expanding.
So what were some of your favorites back then? Like were you reading superhero comics, horror comics? What were you?
Well, I would buy the Harvey comics, Hot Stuff, Casper, things like that. Lee would get, I remember, lots of Justice League, lots of Legion of Superheroes, lots of Fantastic Four. He also, there would be these, it's crazy to say this, 25-cent giants.
Right.
They were thick. Right. So there'd be Marvel superheroes, which would reprint earlier issues of stuff, and which, we were too young to have gotten. So it was great how they would reprint this stuff, and the 80-page giants from DC.
Yeah.
So those were always a treat when you would see that, and for us as little kids, 25 cents was, please.
Think about it now, 25 cents now for.
Oh, I think my first allowance was 25 cents a week.
Yeah.
And fortunately that went up, but to think that you could, buy a couple regular comics or one of these giants with that 25 cents, and then we'd earn extra money mowing the lawn and stuff like that. But it was always about accumulating our stack. You know, we didn't have boxes, comic book boxes. We just had toy boxes, actually.
Right.
And you'd open the toy box and there'd be a giant stack of comics. And then that stack turned into 2 and 3 and 4.
And when you were a kid, then did you actually save them?
They were saved in the same way our toys were saved. I think Mom would every spring or so go into our rooms, and if a toy was missing an arm or something, it went in the trash, even though it was still precious to us. And
right.
We'd go in the toy box and, hey, where's my Major Matt Mason? You know, and it's like, no, it got thrown out. And the same thing happened with comics, because we would just wear them out like crazy. We were just, we weren't precious about it. We weren't very careful, turn the pages. It was that whole fold it up and stick it in your back pocket, take it up to when we'll dig out the hillside to make forts, and we'd take our comics up there and stick them in a wooden box, you know, so they would get ruined and lost and destroyed.
Like toys.
We were constantly getting new stuff. And I do remember some did become precious to us. And I think the 80-page giants and the 25, the annuals and whatnot that Marvel did, those would be, you know, we got to take better care of those. I remember maturing into that attitude. But yeah, they were just always there. And then of course, Lee and I would work. Dad was a frustrated artist.
Okay.
He was a psychologist, but he also had his hand in everything. He wanted to try everything in his life. He built 2 open cockpit biplanes in our basement.
Wow.
So we learned how to fly when we were little kids.
Wow.
And because he also had his own Cessna.
And where'd you grow up?
Roseburg, Oregon. Okay. About an hour south where we live now.
Okay.
But he also wanted to be an artist. And so there was a drafting table that we had access to in our house. Although Lee and I would usually just lay on our stomachs on the floor and you know, draw there. And, but he had the Andrew Loomis art books,
okay.
You know, figure drawing for all it's worth. And we would go through there and we would trace the figures and then draw superhero costumes on them. And then we would make our own comics and then color them in with color pencils and whatnot. But so we were always creating. There was always something. My mom was also very crafty. She would take a ceramics class. And so we would get in there and be painting statues and whatnot. And so there's always something creative going on in our house.
So you have an artistic family. You're
very much, yeah.
And the love for comic books started very early in your life.
Because of Lee.
Because of your older brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I even asked him recently, how did you get into them? And he was like, don't know. I think they maybe Mom and Dad bought him something, and what would happen? We would always be doing trips, even if it was a day trip for a picnic or going to a swimming hole or something. And the first thing we would do would be to buy, maybe we'd go buy KFC and buy a bucket of chicken, but then we'd also hit the market, at the gas station, and there would be spinner racks with comics. And that was when we could just really plow. So we didn't have to use our allowance on that. We would just grab our stack of stuff, and that would go up by the cash register with everything else Mom and Dad were getting. And then we were set, and that's we were constantly feeding that habit. Isn't that how most of us start? I think, if I'm correct, you're a little bit older than I am. Yeah, probably.
I just turned 52, so.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Okay.
I'm 6 days older than Laura. So we have a birthday week, and but yeah, I honestly never think about age until somebody brings it up. So.
Right. And it's funny because us doing what we're doing here on YouTube, we're a little bit older than most people who do this, and I think it comes through sometimes with us, and it's just, and I teach very young kids. I teach 9-year-olds. Brian teaches middle school kids. So it's always a thing with us that, they make sure that they know you're old. So we can't get away with, trying, pretending our age. They see us as anywhere from 21 to 90 is the age you get from kids. So it plays on us just as, what we're doing in our side jobs and in our regular jobs. But when you started out, you didn't immediately go into comic books. You worked in radio and on TV for a spell, right?
Yeah, well, I started as an art major, but panicked when with the instructors and just a basic overall feeling of how do you make a living at this? And the kid who lived across the street growing up, and our childhood was like Leave the Beaver. My older brother was Wally. I was the Beef. So it was just classic Americana. We could walk off the hill to the main street. And that's where, so we could walk to a drugstore and buy comics. Right. There was Johnny's Toy Store was there. And the kid across the street who we would trade Hot Wheels with, his dad owned the local AM and FM radio stations.
Okay.
And his name, Eric Warden, and his dad, Tom Warden. Eric started working at the radio station when he was in high school. And when in college, I then switched my major to broadcasting because I got a part-time job working at the radio station over the summer. And so when I went back to school, it's like, I'll continue taking art classes, right, but broadcasting was a realistic career. And sure enough, I then ended up working at the radio station full time. I would work, it was the top 40 during the week on the AM station. And then I would do night rock Saturday nights on the FM station. And this was like a midnight to 5 a.m. shift, but I could play whatever I wanted. Right. And it was amazing. Well, I could play whatever I wanted until I played stuff that Tom, the owner, heard and was like, don't play that ever again. And I came to work one day, and Eric, who became the program director, was going through all, and this was classic, vinyl. The singles were on 45s. We had the albums. And what happened was, Eric went through, and if there was a black sticker on a record, that meant you couldn't play it. So a lot of flip sides we weren't allowed to play. And there was, I think it was David Bowie's Sorrow was the single. And on the flip side was Amsterdam, which is this really grotesque, there's lyrics about sailors with rotting teeth and eating fish heads and tails. And that was what Tom heard. It was like, never play that again. And it caused this whole thing where all of a sudden, black sticker, black sticker, black sticker.
You went and listened to everything and figured out what you
then Laura got pregnant with our first child, and there would be a Air Force recruiter would come to the radio station dropping off radio spots, right, join the Air Force. And I got to know him really well, and we'd have conversations, and he had heard that Laura was pregnant, and he said, "What do you, are you worried about medical costs and stuff?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And he says, "Well, you can do what you're doing right now, do it all over the world, and free medical care, free housing, all this stuff." And I was like, "Tell me more." I'm very anti-war. I've always been very anti-war. And so the idea of any association with the military was alien to me. I didn't know anybody who'd ever been in the military, but I talked with Laura about it, and it was like, okay, yeah, let's see what we can do with this. And so I went and tested, and because of my experience, they rocketed me through the courses, and I ended up teaching television production at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, and met all kinds of I'm blanking, but who wrote Catch-22? Heller. Joseph Heller.
Okay.
So people like that would come through, and we would teach the cadets how to put on their own television program and how to interview these dignitaries and celebrities that would come through. And that was amazing. And you also learned every aspect of it. You learned audio, you learned studio camera work, getting out in the field with the camera work, lighting, audio. You learned everything. And so you were just completely well-rounded in every aspect of broadcasting. And then from there, I went to Europe, where I was a TV reporter for AFRTS and AFN. And my first story was covering, there was an air show, and two Italian jets collided midair, and one of them went into the crowd. And so the first job I had was helping gather home video, because this is when home video was becoming, people had.
So we're talking like early mid 80s.
This would have been 88. And Ramstein Air Base. So we supplied all of the footage, and there were just dozens of angles of this horrific event. And you would, so if you saw it on network news, that was the stuff that we supplied. Okay. And then my first official story was covering a helicopter rescue, the helicopter rescue workers. So the pilots and the people that came with the helicopters. And so I got to fly around in a helicopter interviewing them and stuff. And it's funny because we did a magazine program. That was our main job. And it was mostly human interest stories. Right. So we would be sent all over Europe covering a teenage youth center in Athens. I would be sent to England, where a woman was building scale castles. So here's this castle, here's it, but 1/12 scale. And so it was all that kind of stuff. I would be sent to Amsterdam, where they got this state-of-the-art indoor golf thing, where you would hit and you'd hit it and it would giant screen. Right. So this was back in the late 80s.
I didn't realize they had those back then.
Yeah. Well, this would have been one of the very first. And so that's largely what I did. But my first story was this tragedy, this air show tragedy. And the last story I covered was covering the wall, the fall of the Berlin Wall.
So basically in the late 20s, you traveled Europe.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. But all of these fun, kind of fluffy stories were bookended by these two historical events. Right. And the Berlin Wall thing has just stuck with me.
So you were there. You were there when it came down, front and center.
And before even interviewing East German refugees who were jumping the wall, which caused the fall of the wall, because for whatever reason, they were leaving en masse at this point, risking their lives. And just every day there were more people jumping over the wall. And they were sent to contingency hospitals, where they would meet with employers who would try to find them employment in the West. And then the wall came down, and it was this amazing celebration. It was probably one of the most optimistic times of my life, thinking that this is the beginning of a bright future. But as we learn, history goes like this.
We're certainly learning that every day, aren't we?
Yeah. But it really felt like the world was opening up, and kindness was the new way.
I was graduating high school at the time, so yes, I know the optimism of the late 1980s and how we felt the future was going to be better because of us.
Yeah, but while I was in Colorado Springs, I met Steven Seagal, who a lot of comic book work,
right?
But is at this point best known for co-creating Ben 10 and Big Hero 6. Well, I actually took his father's job at the Air Force Academy. We became friends. I met him when he had his first book coming out called Kafka, and his second book was The Amazon, which Tim Sale illustrated with Kamiko. And I kept in touch with him. So when I was in Europe, now I continued to draw for fun, was writing a screenplay, and my friend Charlie Custis got me excited about comic books again, because I'd given up on them when they killed Gwen Stacy. Truly,
Okay.
it was a traumatic
Really?
event for me. I regularly collected Spider-Man. When Gwen Stacy was killed, she was this massive crush in my life, and I stopped cold turkey, and then spent all my paper route money on record albums.
Okay.
So I'm trying to say this up pretty quickly because these are key moments in my life,
Right.
and because of that, I repeat them often. But Charlie got me excited about what comics were doing, and I remember there were 2 more issues of Watchmen to come out. So that's exactly when I fell in love with comics again. Not just fell in love, became obsessed with them. And he gave me Mr. X, which turned me on to Love and Rockets. He gave me all the Frank Miller Daredevils. Well, he loaned those to me, but he also gave me a lot of stuff. He gave me The Dark Knight Returns, which at the time issues were going for like $40 a piece and stuff. And so I thought, well, man, the least I should do is read them. And so I did. So Frank Miller, and then of course David Mazzucchelli with Year One, hugely influential on me, and started to. Instead of storyboard my screenplay, I started to break it into comic book format.
Right.
And that became my first published work, which was a graphic novel called Dead Air.
Right.
And when I was in Europe, Steve called me up to say, hey, our pitch to Kimiko for a 12-issue series called Jaguar Stories got picked up.
And this is what, 1989, right? And end of the 19-
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because the wall fell down in 89. We were there we were on Landstuhl Castle, which overlooks the village of Landstuhl, New Year's Eve, 89 to 90. And we were already set to go back to the States. And because I had a 12-issue series with a page rate.
And who's publishing it at that time?
Kimiko. They published the first Grendel comics, the first Mage comics. I'm blanking. A lot of very successful stuff. Elementals.
Okay.
So this was like, wow, this is great, and a full color and everything, and which was relatively rare for independence back then. And so I thought, Laura and I talked about it. It's like, let's do this. I've got a year to work full time on this. It's worth the risk. And so we rolled the dice, moved back to the States. And a few months in, turns out somebody had bought Kimiko and was just kind of exploiting it, building assets, and going into chapter 11.
Okay.
And we got caught up in that, and Matt Wagner got caught up in that, and which bonded us with Matt. He became one of my very best friends, remains one of my very best friends, just lives north of us here. So yeah, we all got caught up in this horror show. But for me, I lost that employment because all of a sudden the money stopped coming in and had to scramble. And so I continued with my own creator-owned work, solo work. And that started to, ring some bells. Matt Wagner turned Neil Gaiman onto my stuff. So Neil called me up, asked me if I wanted to do Sandman. And so the first few years of my career were just kind of sputter, excitement, disappointment. And then I met Kevin Eastman. I had an idea for a costume character, and he picked it up. Madman came out. He had.
Oh, you did that? You did Madman?
He did this. He had a very generous promotional budget.
Right.
And that's really when my career locked in. And because of that kind of support. And then later when Kevin kind of, I'm okay, I've done this. I don't want to do publishing anymore. He largely concentrated on heavy metal.
Right.
And by that time, Laura and I would go to every comic book convention. I didn't even know what a comic book convention was until we came back to the States. And, Matt would be like, oh, hey, yeah, there's this in San Diego and whatnot. And so we were at the last San Diego Comic-Con in the old convention center, which was just some old place.
It was nothing like it is now.
No, and the first year in the convention center where it is now was nothing like it is now. So 91, we move into the convention center, and it's just a small portion of it. And then the next year they'd open up a wall. The next year they'd open up a wall. The next year they'd open up a wall. And we went every year for at least the first 10 years and just watched it get bigger and bigger and bigger until finally, I hate to say this, but it kind of stopped being fun. We would go and it felt very comic book driven.
Right.
You would meet and become friends with your peers, and as it got bigger and harder to get from point A to point B, because you're literally walking like this with people on either side.
We go to New York every year, and it's you can't enjoy it. It's hard to enjoy.
It's hard to enjoy. And so I'm more attracted to smaller shows, and I think that for everybody's sake, they should sell fewer tickets and maybe do it twice a year.
But I don't understand why in all honesty, we go to New York every year, and I take my two daughters. They're not kids anymore. They're 22 and 24, and we've been going since they were like 12. And it just gets to, they love it. My kids love it. I can't. I go to a lot, like you said, I go to a lot of small conventions, and I'm on Staten Island, and in New York and in New Jersey, we could go to one every weekend if we wanted to. And it's just
right.
Much more enjoyable. I buy a lot of comic books, so I still am buying back issues and still, keeping up with the collecting that I've been doing since I was a kid. New York Comic Con is so not enjoyable for me. It's just you can't talk to creators, you can't talk to vendors. It's just always hustle bustle, and most of the people there are not, I don't want to sound like that elitist thing, but not true comic book fans. It's more of a pop culture event now. It's not a comic book convention anymore. It's more about saying that you were there as opposed to enjoying that you're being there.
Yeah. Well, I'm a pop culture fiend. I can see behind you. You are too. It's not just comic books. I see the Star Wars stuff.
It's funny because
I'm wearing a Star Wars t-shirt.
I see. We do a lot of.
I live in the Death Star.
When you first come out, I was like, "Oh, he's a big Star Wars guy." I had no idea, and the background is fantastic behind it.
Thanks. Well, I love the pop culture aspect. I don't. And I love talking to people about comic books. And it's my favorite thing to meet the people that let me have this life. So when people show up, I've never limited books. If there have been people that have brought in dollies with everything I've ever done.
I've seen it.
I will sign every one of them. But if somebody does that, I'll ask them to go back in line. So it's not fair for, to sign all of that, and all these other people are waiting. So I'll do 40. Right. And then I'll see you again, and they'll go to the back of the line but for this, it's so the signature. Also, I don't charge for a signature when somebody hands me a book. If somebody has 20 copies of the same thing, then I'm going to charge, because obviously they're going to resell it. But for me, that signature is a thank you, because we could not do it without the people that buy our comics.
That's a great way.
And I've never been jaded about that. I'm always stunned that I'm able to make a living at this, because it's so wonderful. And so for that, I love to go to shows. I love that interaction with my peers and with the people that love comic books like we do. And I never get tired about hearing what they're passionate about, which will turn me on to other things. Right. And I'll get them passionate about stuff. And I'll talk about the Prisoner series, for instance, this series I'm obsessed with, and from the 60s. And we'll talk, what's your favorite James Bond movie? What's your favorite Beatles album? What's your favorite Bowie album? You like Bowie? Have you heard Mott the Hoople? I mean, these are the conversations you have with these people. And it's such fun. I love it so much. But if you go to these events events and there are just too many
Too many.
people, it's like, Laura and I will be talking. It's like, okay, we have a panel at such and such a time. So they cap the line, but we have to cap it sooner because it's going to take us a half an hour to get there.
Right. You can't walk. It's a good thing because it means that the hobby is flourishing, but it's
yes,
it's a good thing. But for
I hate to complain.
We complain all the time because we went to this past year, we went to New York Comic Con, and it's the first time Brian, who's not with me, and I can make fun of him because he's not here. He's
not with us anymore.
He's not with us. He couldn't handle it. He really couldn't. It was so much for him to move like that, and he just assumed it was going to be like the small cons we've been going to, and I was like, no, you can't, like, you have to have a focus. Here's what we're going to do. You can't just go in there and, oh, I'm going to go here, and I immediately go to the comic book area and to the artist alley, and like the Funko Pops and all that other areas, it's hard to even get up there. So,
and also, we probably average about 2 shows a year now. We used to hit everything. We used to go everywhere, accept every invitation. But if we're at a show, it's because we want to meet the people that support our stuff. Because I don't charge for signatures. I don't. Some people will buy original art, of course.
Right.
But I have an art dealer and it goes quickly. So I'm really not at a show to make money.
Right.
I'm at a show to have that social interaction. And also as a fan, I want to get out and, meet and talk to the creators that I like. And I want to see those, the panels. Do
you still collect?
Do
you still collect comics at all? Do you still collect comics at all?
I do. I'm blessed now where so much stuff is sent to me.
Right.
So a lot of times I go to the comic book shop just to hang out because I already have everything. Right. DC's really good also about sending stuff early. Marvel, you get your comps and stuff after the book is on the shelf. I don't know how that works that way, but I usually know what I'm going to get. But yeah, I'm always looking for stuff to get excited about. And that's another reason to go to the comic book store, because maybe I won't know about it otherwise, and maybe somebody will, turn me on to something.
Right. And so
that's how I've.
What do you have coming up? What shows do you have?
We're doing. We're doing Mexico City late September.
Okay.
And then we're going to do Heroes Con next June.
South Carolina, right?
So those are the only things that are locked in right now.
So you kind of shy away from the bigger ones then still? No New York for you?
We'll usually accept an invitation every 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
Which is kind of dangerous because sometimes they stop asking.
Right.
Like we'll get an invitation and we'll say, how about next year? And then they don't ask.
And then they don't want I mean, you're working on stuff now too, so you would assume that.
Yeah, it just makes more sense to be home and be productive than to do a lot of shows and not be productive.
It's funny. That's exactly what Mark said last week. He said it's hard to go to shows because you're really wasting a week's time and you just don't have that week to give up when you're working on so many different things.
And that's a writer talking. Like, I can travel and write my solo stuff, but I can't draw anything.
Right.
I might be able to thumbnail stuff out, but I can't be on a plane or in a hotel room with your board doing 11 by 17 board, and it's just awkward. And when I'm in my happy space, I get in the zone and I just get really productive, and I'll work through the night. I kind of keep vampire hours where I'm not getting interrupted or anything. Like I just woke up an hour ago.
Okay.
I'm on the West Coast. So, if you're thinking, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's not the case. So
let's talk about, because I would be remiss if I didn't, let's talk about Madman, and why do you think Madman has been so popular for so long? And I mean, you've taken him to different places, and he is successful everywhere that you go with him.
I don't know. And speaking of pop culture in general, it always stuns me, or it's a mystery to me why something which is clearly wonderful is not successful,
Right?
and something that is mediocre-ish and is hugely successful, and then sometimes something is phenomenal and everybody agrees, and it's it's the quality's there and the success is there. So anytime something hits and works, it's a blessing. And I've been fortunate to have that happen several times in my career. And of course, Madman was the first thing that, in fact, everything came because of Madman. I wouldn't have even known how to get work at Marvel and DC. They came to me because of the success of Madman, and like, hey, how would you like to do this? It was like, yes, I would love to do that. And because of that, I've always felt like I had a little more wiggle room and independence, because there was a level of trust from the editors and publishers, because they already know I know what I'm doing. And also, I am obsessed with improving. I always want what's in front of me right now to be the best thing I've ever done. And I really feel like Batman Dark Age, which we're moving into the last issue now, and I really feel like this is the best thing I've ever done.
It's been great, and we talked to Mark last week about it, and the fact that they're giving you so much leeway to really recreate Batman in the way you see it is fantastic. And he was telling us that you guys are going to pitch Wonder Woman too, to try to get.
Oh, I didn't know we were allowed to say that.
No, he told us last week that he told us on the interview last week that he wants to move forward with.
Oh yeah. It sounds like it's happening. I mean, Superman Space Age did well. Batman Dark Age, I think, is doing even better. So yeah, Wonder Woman Golden Age, it makes sense, right?
Yes.
And I have a deep association with Wonder Woman. We did a MAC cosmetic campaign with Wonder Woman.
Okay.
That was worldwide. I'd never even heard of. Well, why should I have MAC Cosmetics? I'd never heard of it when I was asked to design this promotional thing. There was actually makeup, a whole line of makeup, from powders to lipsticks and whatnot, that were all packaged in Wonder Woman stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And so I was paid ridiculously well to draw these images, and you'd see them on the boxes and you'd see them on the actual items. I also did anyway, but
I mean, in all honesty, I'm not sure that you could have said something that is going to get Brian in more trouble than what you just said.
Brian, why?
Because Brian's wife is a cosmetics retailer, and she's worked for the company for many, many years. And that's like something else that he knows a lot about because of his wife. And the fact that you mentioned that, and he would probably be able to talk more about it, is why when we get done, I'm going to call him and yell at him.
Well, MAC Cosmetics will do these campaigns, and they're very brief, and then they move on to the next one. Right. So they become instant collectibles. And so, like, for instance, the campaign right before our Wonder Woman campaign was a Lady Gaga campaign. Okay. So all these different makeups then had Lady Gaga packaging. But then so I'm asked to do this, do it, got paid very well. And then next thing I know, people are sending me photographs from all over the world showing me displays. And so, for instance, a full figure of Wonder Woman that I drew was hanging between escalators in a mall. So you see people going up and down the escalators with this giant Wonder Woman between the escalators. There was another one where the MAC Cosmetics store, so it's a double glass door, and Wonder Woman big enough that the double door was between her legs.
Holy cow.
So I'm seeing my art 2 stories high.
And it's not even for a comic book, it's for cosmetics.
Yeah. And so anyway, that was thrilling, and I've done these little bits with Wonder Woman, but I'd love to just be able to do something full on like we've done with Superman and
I hope
Batman.
you could create a whole universe of that, because I'm actually a big Flash fan, so it would be really cool to see the two you work on.
Again, I always hold my cards close, because back in the day, you promoted everything you were doing, everything you were thinking about doing.
Right.
You would talk about it, and I'm hoping to do this, and I'm hoping to do that. Something happened about 10 years ago where all of a sudden it was like, no, don't talk about what you're doing until we're ready to put it out there.
Right.
Especially with publishers who want to control the marketing. And so I respected that, and it was like, okay, you let me know, and you want me to talk about this stuff, and until then I just won't say anything.
It's funny because we've had some instances with that where we've done interviews and the person will talk about something that's coming up, and then after we'll email us like, listen, please edit that part out, because I'm not allowed to. I shouldn't have said anything, and I ran it by my editor, and they said, no, you can't talk about that yet. So we've had experiences with that.
Well, so what I can't say is, it's a sure thing, but what I can say is it's the dream. I never could have dreamed that I would get to do Superman's entire lifetime. I couldn't have dreamed that I would get to do Batman's entire lifetime and get to constantly reinvent the costume, year after year after year.
Now, you designed the Batmobile in is that your design in Dark Age? Yeah, it's
all the designs are mine.
It's great.
Yeah, Mark, he might suggest something, but he lets me run wild. And
he said that too. He said, I just let Mike run wild. I give him a suggestion, he turns it into Mike. So
yeah. I try to stay very faithful to a script, but if I think, hey, if I actually move this panel at the from this page to here, then I can open it up on the next page here, and he'll be like, go for it.
So you work well together, and
I love
your work.
Love working with Mark. It's a dream.
How far is he from you? You're close to each other now? Because he
comes to our house. We've been to their house. It's great. It's so convenient. We just had dinner at his house, and Michael Bendis was there, and was able to talk to Brian about about something which I'm not allowed to talk about.
Okay,
with something else which I'm working on, and when I'm allowed to talk about it, we'll be like, it's
good. Okay, good.
Dreams are coming true like crazy. Sometimes I'm like, is this real? Is this real life? I don't get it, because so many. And the creators have been able to work with. I mentioned Neil. I mentioned Matt. Working with Dan Slott on Silver Surfer. As a child, I loved Silver Surfer so much that when I was a kid, you weren't allowed to bring comic books to school. So I took Silver Surfer #1 with the iconic John Buscema cover. I cut Silver Surfer out and pasted it on my Peachy, my school folder.
Yeah.
So I get up Silver Surfer with me at school.
and then you got to work on it. So it's funny, because you're getting older, you're getting more and more popular, and you're doing more and more stuff.
I really feel like I'm just getting warmed up.
That's great to hear from a fan's perspective.
Oh, constantly trying new tools. I think I found the ideal tools with everything probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
But the previous decades, I'll try this marker, I'll try this brush, I'll try this ink, I'll try this pencil, I'll try this eraser. And now if I go to the art supply store, I don't, you can like mark things and stuff and try brushes out, and I haven't found anything that's better than what I'm working with now. So as far as tools go, I haven't found a way to, I haven't found better tools, but I'm constantly playing with storytelling, with layout, with, when I did, Madman Atomic Comics, every issue I tried to find some new experiment, either a storytelling experiment or a tonal experiment, something to really push somewhere. And for instance, with that series, I created the world's biggest comic book panel. Issue number 9 is a series of double-page spreads that, when put together, is a continuous, unbroken panel.
Okay.
And you can go to AAA Pop and click on, I think it's at the top. It might even say, my friend Brian Huber does all my tech stuff. And I think he has it say world's biggest comic book panel. You click on that at AAApop.com,
Okay.
and you can blow it up and scroll it.
And
So it's all connected. So you can see
I'll put it in
there.
the comments too, and let everybody else who's listening do it too.
And so that was issue number 9. Issue number 3, one of my favorite things I've ever done, is Swiped from Dimension X. That's the name of the story. And in that, with every panel, I tried to draw in another artist's style.
Okay.
And I did it chronologically. So you'd have like Hal Foster and
Jack Kirby.
every time I try to list stuff, one of my hang on.
Love the depth stuff.
This one of my biggest influences and one of my favorite artists that few people have ever heard of, and it's understandable because you just can't find it's just crazy to me. Roy Crane,
Okay.
who essentially created the adventure strip. This stuff is intoxicating. It's addictive. You go through these and you just get caught up in it. And the action is really cool. And the women are so beautiful.
And when is it from? What?
Yeah.
I'm going to help Kelby, and then I'm going to come back and then take the boys and Ken Frank shopping for a bit.
Okay. Love you. Bye. Sorry.
It's all right. Listen, this is real life.
So his first strip is Wash Tub and Captain Easy. And the Fantagraphics printed a series of big, beautiful hardcovers of the Sunday Captain Easy Adventures strips. But he is a master. And Alex Toth is somebody who mentored me and is one of the greats. And he does get his due largely. He created Space Ghost, mostly worked in animation, but did beautiful classic comic books. So when I talk about Alex Toth being an influence, people go, oh yeah, okay. Well, Roy Crane, man, it's really hard to find his stuff. That book I just showed you, good luck finding it.
Okay.
It's next to impossible to find.
And when is it from? How old is it?
Oh, this is probably 20. The books are this is 1932 to 1933. This was published in 1989 from a company called NBM. Yeah, and nobody that I'm aware of has he followed that up with a strip called Buzz Sawyer, and there have been recent collections of those. But this is the kind of thing that should be in print all the time.
All the time.
They're just so good. And so when I'm mentioning these creators, Roy Crane is somebody that I really go out of my way to mention because he's so inspirational to me. And so anyway, going back to this particular issue, so there's a Roy Crane panel, there's a Hal Foster panel, there's a Charles Schultz panel, there's a Marie Sendak panel, there's a Charles Adams panel. And so, and then of course so different strip artists, children's book illustrators, all of these influences. And I even tried to research what kind of tools these artists would use. So when I did Hank Ketchum panel or Herfield, I would find out what pen they used, what brush they used, and try to capture the essence of their style as best I could.
Fantastic.
And then all up until, then my contemporaries at the time, my dear friend Darwin Cook and Craig Thompson and Paul Pope and Michael Avon Oming and on and on. So
we just had Michael on. He was on like 3 weeks ago.
We just saw him last
He was
weekend.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely fantastic guy.
Yeah, he and Taki came down to do a signing here at Books with Pictures, and we went out to eat afterwards.
Oh, yeah, he was.
Love him.
Michael was a great interview. He was really just so nice, just so
and loves the craft.
Yes, and that was it. You could tell that he loves talking about comic books. That's what we like on here. We love talking about guys who just love comic books as a whole, not just as from the creative side. Just your fans first, and then your creators after that. That's it.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot from. I'll try to get into the brains of my peers. Like, why do you do this, or how do you do that? And usually your contemporaries are very open and eager to share how they do things or why they do the things that they do. Michael, if it wasn't for him, I did a story for the New Adventures of the Spirit.
Right. And
when I was approached to do that, I just couldn't. There just wasn't enough time. And Mike and our mutual friend, Matt Brundage, were like, we'll help you. And so the three of us jumped in and did this story. So we got to do a spirit story, and then Will chose our story to do the cover for it. So our robot that we designed, we have Will Eisner drawing it. And Will, Will's the first superstar I ever met. I met him in Germany, actually.
Right.
And he was there signing and promoting a documentary called Comic Book Confidential. And so I met him then. And then, of course, the next year I was back in the States working in comics full time. And he was there that first San Diego Comic-Con, the next one. So every year I would be able to touch base with him, and he would be like, wow, you're really growing in leaps and bounds. I'm so happy to be following your career. You're doing really well. I'm happy for your success. And I would also ask him, because I have over 200 different artists doing Madman pinups.
Okay.
It started as back covers and then card sets and whatnot. And he's the one guy that kept promising and never delivered. So I'll get to it. And
that's for you. That's your personal stuff. Like that's for yourself.
Yeah. Like right over here, I have a Frank Frazetta Madman, a Jack Kirby Madman, Barry Windsor Smith Madman, Alex Toth Madman.
That's a great thing your own creation being drawn by some of the greatest artists to ever live. That's a fantastic idea. Now,
several from all three Hernandez brothers
putting that together in a book, and
they've been Dark Horse has just completed a 6-volume Madman library collection. There are each of them are these huge things, and all of the pinups are throughout that entire. Yeah. But we also did the 20th anniversary special, which was huge, this giant thing. A lot of them were in there. Early on, there was a hardcover collection of everything that had been done up to that point, but then dozens and dozens since.
And are you still doing it now? Getting artists to do it?
Yeah.
That's really, really, that's a great idea. Now, speaking about Madman, and here's some of Brian's questions. There was movie rights, right? Robert Rodriguez bought the movie rights. So
for 14 years, he optioned it.
So where is that now?
All the rights reverted to me, and back in the day, I would be flying down to Hollywood, different studios and whatnot would be wanting to meet with me, and I had a manager then too. Same manager as Bruce Campbell.
Oh.
So I got to hang out with Bruce Campbell. That was one of the big perks. David Silverman, who was the first animator on The Simpsons, he became one of our dear friends. And so I don't have a manager anymore, and I don't really. For me, it's like if somebody approaches me, I'm open to it, but. What I learned is making a movie is not the be all end all. In fact, sometimes it is the end all.
Right.
And you'll see a movie get made, and then the comic book, the original entity, which is, and for me is the most important thing, is never seen or heard of again.
Well, I think it was I think it was Michael Avon Oming who said it when you get options, he goes, that's great. He goes, I option it, then they didn't use it, and then the next person options it, and I get paid every time it gets optioned. So it's
Oh my gosh.
it's okay if it's not getting made because you get paid on the option part. You're not getting much from the movie part. You're getting from them using your character.
Well, I'll put it this way. Universal Pictures was the first to option Madman.
Right.
If that had gone into production, in fact, that's where I met Robert Rodriguez, and he was like, dude, I'm building my own studio in Austin. I'm doing everything independently. Let the option lapse. Don't push it any further. I'll do it. And so he did, and we became great friends, and I'd go down to Austin and we'd play. And the thing with Robert is he has a zillion things going on all the time. And we came really close to going into production, but then Spy Kids came out and was a huge success.
Oh yeah.
And Mad Men would have been his next production, but they wanted to make more Spy Kids movies, which made sense.
Right, of course, at that point.
And kids grow up. So Spy Kids 2, Spy Kids 3.
I've seen all of them many times. My kids love the Spy Kids movies.
Well, we're in Spy Kids 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, our daughter is a Spy Kid at the big banquet scene.
Okay.
So we're there with Cheech, and we're there with Richard Linklater and Mike Judge, and all of Robert's friends who had kids, he flew them in.
And that's interesting that because I know.
And then we got to go to the premiere at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood.
Nice. I know you and Chasing Amy.
My little girl got to do the red carpet.
She was a celebrity.
Yeah. She had her own makeup and hair artist, and they costume her. I want to wear this, and it was such a treat. And at the premiere, oh my gosh. Ricardo Montalban was there.
Yeah, he was.
Antonio Banderas, of course. We got to hang out in his huge trailer.
Great.
When the movie was getting made, but we shared a trailer with Cheech and Chong. Yeah.
And is he as nice as everyone says he is?
Amazing. We went to and from the airport with him. He had a daughter of that age at that time, and sweetheart, just wonderful. In fact, of all of the famous people that we've been fortunate to meet, 1% of them are jerks.
Right. Let's say that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Most have been really wonderful people, grateful for their success, and grateful for the people that allow them to be successful, that support their success. But yeah, the ones that don't get it and think it's all about them, you just don't want to be around them, So it's like, okay, let's walk this way.
Right. Yeah, and you know who to avoid, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, and people change too. So some of these people that maybe aren't as self-aware as they should be, maybe they are now.
Okay.
Maybe, hopefully.
You would hope they grow. You would hope they would grow.
Yeah. Of course,
maybe
I try to grow.
Careers on a decline. You would think realize where you are.
I meditate on my life being better tomorrow than it is today.
Good.
And always kindness, always first. It's the most powerful tool in everybody's toolbox.
I wish everyone thought that way.
Yeah, I wish everybody would use that tool because it's amazing. Kindness is so powerful, and it can just generate so much progress and positivity. And I mean, if it'd be so easy, I mean, this is very Pollyanna, but if everybody just made an effort to be kind, instantly the world would be a better, safer place.
It's funny. I say to my kids all the time, my students, and I, talk to a lot of kids in school. It's so much easier just to be nice to somebody than to be mean. Nice is easy. Mean, you actually have to try to be mean.
Yeah.
Be nice, and that's, it's so much easier to be nice to people. And listen, in schools right now we have a lot of trouble with kids. Behaviors are as coming out of COVID. Behaviors are as bad as they've ever been, and we try to keep kids, nice.
Yeah.
I would be in trouble if I did not talk about this, because
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you a story about this. This is my youngest
But wait,
daughter.
if I could interrupt you just to
Go ahead.
finish a thought, because my brain goes.
I know, mine too.
Speaking of kindness and the kindness of Robert Rodriguez, making our lives magnificently better because of his kindness and generosity, and all of the beautiful, fun experiences just on that one thing,
Right.
the Spy Kids thing. But if with his advice, if Universal had made the movie, I would have made a fraction of what I ended up making.
Right.
And like what Michael was talking about, and then you talk about iZombie there again with optioning and that sort of thing. That was a gift. iZombie has brought so many wonderful things to our lives. So now I'll let you talk about iZombie.
So okay, so this is funny. So this is my youngest daughter just graduated college, in May, within the last less than a month ago, and I have a huge comic collection. On the other side of me is like 9 file cabinets filled from top to bottom with comic books. I've been collecting for a long time. She doesn't read a lot, so she said now that she has this summer free, she said I want to start reading comics, Dad. I want to start going into your collection and pulling stuff out. So let me know, where should I start? So as a gift for her when she graduated, this was her gift, because when she was younger, this is a show that we bonded over. Me and her would watch as the show every week. She was younger, she was at home more, and then we would watch the show. So I said, this is the perfect place to start. And it's funny, she got this, and right around the same time is when we started back and forth trying to work out when we were gonna meet up and have an interview. And I was like, oh, Cass, I'm going to be interviewing the artist from this, and she's upstairs right now waiting for me to finish this to hear how this went. And it was just, iZombie was big for us because it's something we both really liked.
Yeah, the collaboration on that was amazing. Chris Roberson and I were brought together by Shelley Bond, who was my first editor with Jaguar Stories, the Kamiko series that got me started. Oh, wow. Yeah, and so she's been one of our dearest friends ever since. She was right in there. Editors, especially something ground level like this, she was right in there pitching ideas and stuff to Chris and I that we like. Yeah, it's a great idea. So was very much a part of that. And then talking about kindness, every cast member, every person on that production, wonderful. Everybody. And Rose MacGyver, our star, is now in the #1 sitcom.
Love that show. We love that show.
Ghosts.
We love that show, Ghosts.
Yeah. And she just had her first baby, and and so every one of them truly, like we won a MTV award. I got to be there for that, and so I've got anyway.
So you were heavily involved in the show. You were involved in the show.
Not the show so much. We largely let go, but because I felt like, they changed things, which made sense for a TV series. Right. Me, I would have loved a more faithful, the comic takes place here where I live in Eugene. I would have loved to have had all of the vibe of what I am surrounded with in a live action
right there
adaptation, but it made sense, the kind of the procedural brain of the week kind of thing, and it gave Rose all kinds of wiggle room to what she did. Wow,
it worked for TV.
Yeah, and we were thrilled with it, and it was fun watching it. So we kind of just let it go and let it happen. And
did you enjoy it the way it went?
Very much, very much. There are things I wouldn't have done, or I would have changed, but I won't be nitpicky about that. 5 seasons. How often does that happen?
Not on a WB show. Definitely not.
Yeah, I think every episode is on Netflix right now, so people are constantly. It's probably the thing that most people know me for.
Really? You think more than Madman?
Oh yeah. Like for instance, if I go to the grocery store and I'm wearing an iZombie t-shirt, I love that show. So, but if I wear a Madman t-shirt, so I'm talking about the real
The real world. The real world. Not
out in the real world.
Dwellers, yes. The real world
Yeah.
people.
So, like, for instance, I created and co-created with Peter Milligan the whole build the team, kill the team that was in Deadpool 2.
Right.
And Zeitgeist, so it's like, that's my guy. That, for instance, is like everybody has seen that. And they may not know that I created Zeitgeist or Peter and I came up with that whole idea in the first place to build the team and kill the team.
Right.
But if it comes up in conversation, then but iZombie, yeah, I think as far as just completely, yeah, it would be the thing that most people out in the world would have been exposed to of my work.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. So with Deadpool 2, it's just that 15 minutes,
right.
But iZombie, again, 5 seasons, and on Netflix, it's there. My name is on every episode. I animated the title sequence. So even with that, so even though a large part of the concept, our original concept was changed for the show, my art is all over it. So
it was a great show. It's, she's really enjoying this right now, and she'll probably end up reading more. Maybe I'll get her to read Madman too. So what do you have?
If you were to come to Eugene, Oregon, you take that book with you. You can go around Eugene. That's that building. That's that house. Really? Oh yeah. There's even a map of Eugene in there, and there's a big action sequence on the top of Spencer's Butte with all the rocks and whatnot. I hiked to the top of that and like drew that. So you can go up there with the book and go, oh, that's that rock and that's that thing and that's that tree.
It's funny. She was reading it the other day, and in the middle of reading it, she stopped and she goes, "Dad, look at this!" And it's the Halloween scene, and you have her dressed as Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead, my all-time favorite movies. I love Shaun of the Dead. And she's like, "Dad, look, Shaun of the Dead. Dad, look what he." And it's funny how she's always been into this kind of stuff, but now she's really getting into the comic book side of it. So it's really
that big creepy house is called the Shelton McMurphy House, and it's by the train station. So yeah, so I can take people on an iZombie tour, or I can take them on an Animal House tour, because Animal House was filmed
there. Oh, you have another job. If you ever want to stop doing comic books, you have another job. You can be a tour.
Every time a friend visits, like want to go on my Animal House tour.
So what's next for you? What do you have coming up next?
Well, fingers crossed on what we just talked about. Yeah. I always have new Madman stuff in the pipeline, but my collaborations have to take priority because other people are involved. So Madman has become a spare time thing.
And who's publishing Madman now?
Dark Horse would be. Yeah, it's like it's funny. I think every major publisher you can think of has done Madman.
Well, Dark Horse didn't Image Comics have it?
Yeah.
Then Image had it. Now it's back at Dark Horse.
Yeah, and Image actually moved to Portland. So Portland, yeah, it's crazy. But with Dark Horse, like I could do a new Madman special and have Image publish it.
Right.
There's nothing that would stop me from doing that. But because I've been doing these libraries volumes with Dark Horse, it would just make sense to Daniel Shaban, my editor there, has these have been his brainchild. It wasn't my idea for the library. He approached me, so it just makes sense to me to return the favor and continue on with him and Mike Richardson at Dark Horse, because I love what they did with this. I mean, all of my solo creator-owned work, all of it, Red Rocket 7, everything is linked. Even if it's just a tiny thread, everything can coexist. And so it really is this Madmaniverse.
Okay.
And the library collects all of my solo stuff, everything, and stuff which I never ever would have wanted reprinted, like Graphique Musique and Dead Air, my first graphic novel. Never would have wanted that stuff reprinted. But in the context of showing this entire body of work, I'm fine with that, because you can see my growth. You can, it's not just, here's this one book that I wish was better. Here it is in the context of all of my work, and you can see progress. I love seeing an artist's progress. And so that worked for me. And because of that, we colored early black and white stuff for the first time. So stuff that had never, ever been reprinted has now been reprinted, but also with Laura's colors, or my son Han colored a lot of it too.
Oh, really?
And then
your son's
daughter
colored.
Kelby.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Our daughter Kelby has colored some stuff. But yeah, it's all, so if you get that library, as of now, all of my solo creator-owned work and a lot of the crossovers too. Superman, Madman is in there. The Nexus meets Madman is in there. Madman Jam is in there. The Powers crossover with Bendis and Oming is in there. And also like pinups and stuff that have never been seen before.
How many volumes are there?
6.
Okay.
6 massive volumes.
I think I'll push that on my daughter next. That could be the next thing that she reads. I'll go.
Yeah, it's so you won't see Sandman in there. You won't see my Silver Surfer in there, obviously.
Right.
But all of my independent creator-owned stuff it's all there.
I will definitely look for it for me to read.
And the 6th and final volume, we just got our comps, and so it should be in stores any week now.
And he's not going away anytime soon. So you have other stuff that you're working on. We'll get out there sooner or later.
I have an outline for Madman that would take 3 lifetimes to complete.
Good. It's good to know it will still be out there.
Yeah.
It's good to know you're a fellow Star Wars fan too. So that's
Star Wars was to this day the greatest movie-going experience I've ever had in my life.
Same here. Changed me.
In fact, yeah, right here I have this tattoo of 3PO on the dunes.
Right.
With the crate dragon on the crest of the dunes. Yeah. So when we were kids, every summer we would do this trip to through Utah and then back to Oregon, because both of our parents and cousins and uncles and aunts, they were all in Utah. So and so they pack us up every summer and we go and visit all the relatives. And one summer of 77, we were at my aunt and uncle's house in Salt Lake City, and on a little tiny black and white TV, saw a commercial, and the first image I ever saw was Luke swinging Leia. And us kids were driving the adults crazy. So they were like, let's get rid of the kids, let's drop them off at the movies or something. And I want to see that. And so they got out the newspaper and they saw it was at the Center Theater in downtown Salt Lake City. And Dad took us in and dropped us off. And this must have been the first week, because there weren't any lines.
Right.
I'd never heard of it, because again, we were out and about, and who heard of stuff back then? Unless, yeah. So we're rarely around TVs, because so we get dropped off. And when we walked in, on the screen was 3PO walking past the crate dragon on the dune. So that was the first image we saw. We get in and like, what's happening? Who are these people? You see Luke buying, the droids, and we get caught up into it, and it was thrilling. And to this day, the happiest, most satisfying ending of any movie ever. The big celebration at the end. They won. So we come out of the movie theater, Dad's there, and we're like, please, 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 please let us stay and watch the next show. So again, it must have been right early on, because there wasn't a line to get back in the next show. And we were able to get right back in and watch the next showing from beginning to end. And so then we got to even more so. And for weeks and months and years, every time I would find anything like the Ralph McQuarrie thing where, yeah, there was like a portfolio you could buy,
And then
had
what his original
all the
concept.
party stuff.
Yeah.
So anytime I could find anything Star Wars, you know, the comics and whatnot, and with Howard, but it was
Still to this day. So here, it's funny, sitting on the side of me right here, just so happens there's something me and my youngest is a huge Star Wars fan. This is what we picked up last week.
Yes.
It was complete too. It has all of the pieces in it, and she wants to play it sometime this summer. We want to play the Star Wars game from 1977.
Oh, my favorite thing to collect are 1/6 scale figures.
Yeah.
And I've built dioramas, like, you know, the outside of the bay where the Millennium Falcon is, and Luke and Obi-Wan, they're coming up, and Chewbacca's at the door letting them in.
Yeah.
I built that in 1/6 scale. So you have, there it is. Death Star dioramas, the throne room, Jabba's throne room, all of these 1/6 scale dioramas. N1 Starfighter I put together from dozens of 3D printing pieces.
And you built the wall behind you too?
Yeah.
Listen,
I love this stuff. I mean, and it's amazing what all has grown out from that 1977 film, which I think is the best film. You know, people like to say, "Oh, Empire is better." There's no way. There is so much in that first film that has been built upon. It's miraculous how that movie flows, and just the production design.
Yeah,
it's infinite. It's infinite and eternal. That never goes out of style.
Yeah, a movie that was supposed to fail, and the stuff that he did was
the Clone Wars, for instance, great series. There's a scene where Obi-Wan gets in Mandalorian armor to rescue the princess. So this is a Obi-Wan figure that was sold, or that's a custom? It's sold. Yeah, it just came out. It's my the last thing I got. Yeah, that's me too. I'm always looking. If you look behind me, you'll see that shelf has. Yeah, that shelf there has some of my, I will say this, and you could take it for however you want it, because I don't care what people say. I love the holiday special. The holiday special was so important to me, because when I was a kid, when that came on, I was at my grandparents' house. My grandparents ran a Boy Scout camp when I was a kid, and we were up there during that, because it aired over Thanksgiving weekend, if you remember, when it first aired. It was like in that November timeframe, and I saw that, and it was my next fill of Star Wars. Like, there was nothing else coming out. And exactly. I love that. I still, to this day, I make my kids watch it every Christmas morning. We have watched it probably for the last 15 years. We put the Star Wars Holiday Special on and watch it every. I wish they would embrace the historical context and put out a nice 4K version of it. And I mean, it's the first time anybody saw Boba Fett, so. Listen, in retrospect, is it the greatest thing ever made? No. But as a kid, I was 6 years old, and I got Star Wars changed me, and I went Star Wars crazy. And then they're telling you they're going to put a Star Wars thing on TV. We couldn't watch New Hope on TV. We saw it in movies. That was it. When it was out in movies, you couldn't see it again. I had no hope of ever seeing it again. They put a new thing on. I was glued to my TV. No, when we were children, we would look through the TV guide to make sure we didn't miss The Wizard of Oz, or whatever, the Charlie Brown Christmas special. It was you had to plan these things. When Star Wars came out on VHS, I thought, this is a whole new world. Same here. I can watch it anytime I want. I could rewatch it and get to know the lines and see the things that they're doing and stuff I missed in the movie theater because I was so excited. Yeah. And it gets better and better. There, my friend Brian, my tech guy, found a fan-made fight scene between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Just stunning. They're just tearing the walls down and stuff, and edited into the movie for me. So I can watch it, and then all of a sudden they're just tearing it up. And also, oh man, the last episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian, where Luke Skywalker shows up. Oh, it was amazing to me. That's my favorite Star Wars anything since the 1977 movie.
Now, did you know he was going to be on it? Did you know ahead of time?
Oh no.
Me neither. I didn't either.
When the X-Wing shows up on the monitor, I'm like, okay, is it one of the pilots?
Yeah.
But then the music. And then all of a sudden, sure enough, you see this dark figure, you see the color of the lightsaber, and it's like, could that be Luke Skywalker? So I'm the best audience in the world. I always look at the best of everything. I don't get hyper, especially the first time I watch something.
Right.
When I first watch something, I just take everything good about it. Later, I might go, oh, they could have done this better, this better. Like, oh, his face looked funny. You know, when you see Mark Hamill and the aged Mark Hamill, so I was like, forget all that. Can you just have fun?
That's me too.
With everything else, I don't give any quarter to the haters.
Me neither.
If a show comes out and they're like, oh, this sucks, and I didn't like when they did this or that. Like, we just watched the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte last night. Had a blast. I eat that stuff up, and I'm so grateful that that stuff exists. Nothing has been better than that first experience with the first film.
The same here. Nothing.
But I am so grateful for everything that has followed.
Me too.
And I'm always happy to get back to that galaxy far, far away.
If it's Star Wars, it's good. And no matter what they put out for me, it's Star Wars.
I get back into that precious mindset that just where it's escapism. And that's what I do for a living. I want to give people somewhere to go where they can just absorb this world that we've worked to give to you. And if people appreciate it, great. If people hate it, I'm sorry. But for me, I'm always looking at the miracle of anything that anybody has created. It's so much goes into making anything. Nobody sets out to make a lousy record or a lousy movie or a lousy TV show. Everybody wants to do something good. Everybody wants to be successful. Sometimes the wrong hands get in there and will break something or mess something up or take the spirit out of it. But the intention of the initial creators is sincere. They want to do something special.
And it works sometimes. And think about that. Star Wars Star Wars was not supposed to be what it was. It was not supposed to be successfme. It was not supposed to be a big blockbuster. But our generation saw it and said, "Oh, this is the greatest thing." It changed my life leaving there, and you may be able to identify with this. Prior to Star Wars, I was a huge comic book fan. I've been a comic from my whole life. I only played with Mego figures at the time. Figures. I would get Mego figures from Christmas, my birthday. After Star Wars, I don't think I ever played with a Mego figure again after that. Everything was Star Wars. I needed Star Wars toys. I needed Star Wars play sets. It changed me that day. Science fiction was, changed. I love.
Yeah, I had all the Kenner stuff.
Me too.
But when these Hot Toys and 1/6 scale figures, I mean, you can take a picture of this, and I have taken pictures, and people have thought they were stills from a movie.
They look real.
Like I've got the Millennium Falcon cockpit, and I've got Han and Leia and 3PO and Chewbacca in there. And I go to my Instagram. There are people who say, I thought this was a still from the film. They're so good. So now that I've tried to narrow my collections and really just concentrate on this one. I built a 1966 Batcave and have a 1/6 scale Batmobile that Jazzing, this Denmark company, created, and Adam West and Burt Ward, Batman and Robin, and they're doing a Bat Cycle that's coming out this year. So there's enough stuff in the world. I thought, okay, I'm just going to concentrate. I'm going to streamline my collecting.
I can't do that. If you look behind me, you see so many different things behind me. I can't focus. But I mean, you're talking my language. You're getting Batman 66. The 3 biggest influences on me as a kid: Batman 66, the Super Friends, and Star Wars.
Yeah.
Got me to where I am today.
Well, again, the miracle of Star Wars. Look at everything that could have gone wrong. Look at the imitators that tried to tap into the success. You look at that stuff, it's all dated.
Yeah.
It all looks like 70s.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
look at Star Wars, there's nothing dated about it. The costume design, the production design. You look at a stormtrooper now, it's timeless.
It was perfectly made.
Yeah,
Darth Vader's perfect.
and with every aspect, the Imperial costumes, the just the people that live on Tatooine, all the creatures,
Most the cantina scene is it's
timeless.
it's perfect. You could never say when it was from if you saw it for the first time. You never say it's from the 70s. Never.
So probably the most state-of-the-art sci-fi movie up till then, the year before would have been Logan's Run. You watch that now; it's very 70s.
Oh, it's very
with the music. So the choice of John Williams and the musical score, Marsha Lucas, the editing of the film. Yeah. So everything that could have gone wrong, they had the right people. John Dykstra, all the people that worked on the new technology to make the trench thing work, the making the vehicles fly, the opening shot.
Yeah. Oh, shot.
Everything had to work, and everything works.
And it's like you said, it's timeless. It still works. I watch it every time it's on. If I put, no matter what part it's in, I flip it on. It's on TV. I will sit there and watch from that point. Yeah. It's
if like, somebody tries to tell me Empire Strikes Back is a superior movie, I can completely. I don't. Again, I try to be positive about it, but the main reason why it's not superior is because of the cliffhanger. And you hear a new Star Wars movies. They're making a second Star Wars movie. So the summer of '80, you go in, and then Han Solo gets hauled off. Yeah. And so I had a love-hate relationship with Boba Fett. Every time people would get all excited about Boba, he took Han Solo. And so for 3 years, and when you're a kid, 3 years is a lifetime.
Oh, forever.
And so I'm thinking, I bet in this time Boba and Han have become good friends and all this. And there's Boba Fett. And then Return of the Jedi comes out and he gets ate like a chump in the first. He's gone.
First or second scene, he's gone, and he goes so poorly. Like wait, that's the guy everybody loves, and now he's gone.
Like a chump.
I still to this day I love the movies. My daughter loves the movies.
Robert Rodriguez redeemed him.
Yes.
Because with The Mandalorian, Robert Rodriguez directed the episode that brought Boba Fett back. Put Boba Fett back in the armor. He gets the armor back from The Mandalorian. Which was Robert Rodriguez directed that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, and then Dave Klein, who shot one of the indie movies that I made, Eyes to Heaven, with my friend Shane Hawks. He was Kevin Smith's DP. That's how I met him.
That's how you on Chasing Amy?
Chasing Amy. So Dave came and lived with us, and we shot a little indie movie. Dave's been shooting a lot of these Star Wars series.
It all comes around.
He's playing in that world
I can imagine
all day, every day.
Now, would you like to work on the comic book at some point?
No. Yeah.
Yes, you would. Put your own spin on it?
Yes. No. Yes. Yeah. Well, I've done a lot of covers. I've done a lot of cards.
Right.
I illustrated. There was a magazine devoted to Star Wars, and they did an article on the radio show.
Oh, was Insider?
I think that was it.
Yeah, that's it. I had tons of copies upstairs of different.
Has a really cool illustrated cover, but I illustrated the radio show. So I drew Biggs and Cammy, the girl at the
I know it's
mm-hmm. So I got to illustrate a lot of that stuff, which was in the radio show that got cut out of the movie. And I'm drawing Biggs. And from that was also a card of Biggs and Luke on hover bikes.
Okay.
So anyway, I've done a lot of Star Wars stuff, but I've never illustrated a full story. And I would love to do that.
Put it out in the world. Maybe it will happen.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I put out into the world was my love for Conan the Barbarian, Barry Windsor Smith's Conan the Barbarian specifically, because that changed my life. And talking about the progress of an artist in context, the 24 issues, those first 24 issues of Conan, you see Barry starting out, kind of moving out of his Jack Kirby wannabe stage, and developing his own style. Right. So by the time you get to issue 24, he's become a master. It's the greatest progression in a 2-year period of any artist I've ever seen. And because of that, Marvel did a hardcover book called The Marvel Art of Conan the Barbarian, and asked me to write the outro for it. And I was able to, in that, express my love for Conan the Barbarian, and have only done it in commissions. So I would love to do a young Conan the Barbarian series or story.
And Marvel has the rights again, right? Marvel owns the rights to Conan again.
I don't know. It keeps jumping around.
He was just in that series. It's escaping my memory right now. They made that team. It's him and Ghost Rider, Wolverine.
Conan is with Ghost Rider?
Yeah, they go back in time.
I missed that.
I can't for the life of me think of the name of it right now. Why not?
Huh.
I have it. It's sitting, a couple of file cabinets down, and it's escaping my, the name of it. I can't. I'll send it to you. I'll send you what the name. It was good. It was interesting.
Well, almost everything on my wish, like you're wearing a Fantastic Four hat. That Kirby's run on that is my favorite run of any.
Me too. I just started picking
ever.
I just picked up the first Inhumans first Black Bolt.
I love that stuff so much.
Somewhere literally like I'm surrounded by boxes of comic books right now. It's sitting in one of the boxes.
Yeah. I'm really, 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 really hoping that they make the movie work.
So that meant something to you?
Yeah. See, again, and Matt Fraction talking about these terrific writers I've been able to work with. I'm working with him again on a one shot with Patton Oswalt.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know Patton Oswalt's doing a lot of stuff in comic books now.
And with Daniel Chabon, my Dark Horse editor.
Oh,
so, but yeah, that Matt was able to make my Fantastic Four dreams come true.
So Star Wars is next. Star Wars and Conan, put it out into the world,
Yeah.
Is there how do people find you online, if anybody?
Almost everything is AllredMD at AllredMD. So Instagram at AllredMD, Twitter at AllredMD. Also Threads and Blue Sky, although I'm not that active with social media at all. Right. The thing that I do the most would be Instagram, because you take a picture and you pop it in there, so I'll do, if a new book comes out, I'll take a picture of it, pop it in, or if I make a new display, I take a picture of it. Like you can see a video of my bat cave on Instagram.
And I'm definitely gonna check it out. And I'm gonna put links to everything in the description. So if anybody wants to find,
I'll also do, like I did a full on the Batman costume with a leather cowl that I put together, and I've got a Mandalorian.
See that so you designed that yourself? You created that yourself? Made that?
Well, yeah, it's 3D printing. And then my daughter-in-law will help with the costuming and whatnot, like sewing.
So you cosplay? Is that what you're saying?
Kinda. It's mostly like Halloween is huge in our house.
So ours too.
Giant party.
We have. You would never believe how many people come to my house for candy if I told you. We gave out 1,500 pieces of candy last year.
Well, see, nobody comes to our house.
1,500 pieces year after year. We have a line in front of our house that goes down my walkway and down the block. We have thousands and thousands of people come.
So do you give full-size candy?
It's funny you say that. I have a running thing with kids from school. So if anyone from my school comes to my house, they get a full-size piece of candy.
Right on.
Hey, Mr. Farley, I say like 30 or 40 in the back, and if you're from school, you find my house, you get a full piece of candy. So.
Well, we live on a steep hill and it's not worth the climb. But we walk off the hill and there's a street at the bottom of the hill where everybody on a 2-street loop goes out.
That's
awesome. And so we take the kids and do that. And then there's an ice cream parlor down there. We get them ice cream and then we make the hike back home. But
so you dress up for it? You dress up for Halloween?
Always. Okay. So I'll dress up. Our party is never on Halloween night. Right. So we do our big party on the whatever weekend, whatever Friday is either before whatever's close to Halloween. So we dress up for that, and then I'll have something else to trick or treat in. Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then the past few shows, local shows, I'll cosplay because it's easy to, if I have to fly somewhere, I'm not going to bring a bunch of gear.
Yeah, you can't lug it with you. So
yeah.
Both my kids.
I might bring a X-Wing pilots because I can roll that up.
It's like a piece of clothing, so you just throw it. Yeah,
But I won't bring the helmet.
both my kids cosplay at conventions when we go. The little one designs her own costumes now, and
Well, yeah. Also, so check Instagram. You'll see me in my Mandalorian. You'll see me as the Batman, and Ben Saunders, one of my very best friends, is the Joker.
oh, that's good. I will. I'm definitely gonna check that, and I'm gonna put it out to everybody. I took up way too much of your time already. I'm sorry we went so long.
The main reason I avoid doing these is because I won't shut up.
Yeah, and I just like to hear the story, so I won't. I could go forever right now if you wanted to, but I don't want to take them. But thank you really for coming on. This was fantastic to have you on and just to hear your stories and share our love of Star Wars and all things Star Wars and your comics. And if you ever want to come back on again and promote anything, just let me know.
Cool. Well, thank you for caring.
Yeah, I love your work. Love what you're doing. Just
thank you.
Thank you for bringing joy into the world.
Thank you, and thank any of your viewers. That support our work. We are so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we will talk again soon. Hopefully, I catch you at a convention one of these days.
All right.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye. May the force be with you.
And with you. And